There it is. Which case, you would need my laptop anymore, right?
You can move it off, yeah.
Yeah, you can click that away.
Almost there. Almost there.
How many might show up on the meetings?
Only a handful right now. More will join as they join. We have 6 so far. So more will join as the meeting starts up.
Okay.
So yeah, we're still a little early. So join it, yeah. Oh, I understand what's happening now. Hey folks, there's more seating on that side of the room. Go over here.
I shouldn't sit over here. I don't want to scare her. Like, oh, I shouldn't be in there. That guy's in a suit.
No, you're good.
Can't afford.
You should come sit up front, James. How about that? Yeah, no, I'm kidding. You can stay there. Don't worry about it.
I'll move. I'll move over here.
No worries.
I'd be close anyways.
Yeah.
It's good to see you.
You as well. How's things? Very good.
When you front, what can you do?
Did you walk over? Did you drive over? Is it too bad out there? Was it all right?
Yeah, it's not.
Okay, good.
Actually, the skates will meet the berms. They're supposed to have meet on the berms.
Yeah.
tonight. Probably cows.
Yeah, the airport.
For those folks over here.
Yeah, you should. Go grab 'em. Oh man. Bless you. We are ready. Check, check, 1, 2. Is that mic okay?
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Okay, it's 3 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. We have a sizable audience here in person, so not spend everyone's time because of the weather. Thank you all for coming out. Really appreciate it. My name is Rami Litti. I'm a project manager here at the FedEx Institute of Technology. We love putting on talks and raising the knowledge base of the entire city of Memphis by inviting guest speakers. And today we're very happy to have Dr. Chan Meng, sorry, not Dr. Mr. Chan Meng Khoong from the National University of Singapore, ISS, NUS-ISS. He's the CEO of that fine organization. He joined there in 2015 after spending about 17 years in industry. Before that, when 2013? 2013, sorry about that, 2013. This article needs to be updated. Why don't we do this? Instead of me talking about him, I'll let him talk about himself. And we'll not waste anyone else's time. So please give a warm round of applause for our speaker.
There's a click.
Yeah, so that's just there. Go back.
Okay, thanks, Rami. Welcome to this session. This is my first trip to Memphis, and it's been very interesting. I've learned a lot in the last few days about what the city as well as what the university does. And what I'm going to share with you is some of the trends that we use it back in my institute. We use it to help the industry that we serve to plan ahead in terms of the kind of skills that you might need. Right. So first off, this is me. If you like to have my name card, you can scan the QR code. So I've been with the industry for most of my career in the East Asian part of the world. The closest that I've been to working in the United States was when I was with EDS. That was one of the companies that was with EDS before its acquisition by HP. Was headquartered in Plano, Texas, as some of you might know. So that was the closest that I've been to Memphis in some of my previous areas. And what I've done in my career has been in both the public and private sectors, and I've been sometimes a CIO, a Chief Information Officer. At other times, I have run a couple of startups. At other times, I have been a consultant or management consultant to various organizations. So a mix of different experiences. And for the past 11 years, I am part of this part of the National University of Singapore, or NUS-ISS, which is industry facing. Industry facing in the sense that what we do is we help the industry out there to uplift the workforce in terms of digital skills. So we run a variety of learning pathways for the industry, a range of executive development programs, as well as graduate programs, both industry when it comes to digital skills. So that's what we do in NUS as this part of the National University of Singapore. Because in Singapore, industry development is a big thing because the country has a lot of emphasis on economic development. And we find that to develop the economy, a big part of it is about developing the workforce. And a large part of the economy, in fact, not just in Singapore or in East Asia, but anywhere in the world, digital is a big part of economic development, right? It's a huge enabler of economic development. So digital skills, like it or not, I'm sure even for yourselves here, are going to be part of your learning journey, whatever discipline, whatever profession you are in, whatever you do in your work. So this is where I come from, and as part of our institute, we have to always look ahead in terms of what the industry would need in order for the industry to grow, to transform, to innovate. What do they need in terms of skills, in terms of knowledge, and based on those needs for the various job roles in the industry, how then can we, as an institute, help them to learn, help their workforce to learn, not just today to solve yesterday's problems, but to look ahead into the years ahead. So we do a lot of this what you might call trend spotting to look at what's ahead and working backwards from there to create or develop the training programs, the educational pathways to help industry. So that's what we do, right? So I have led my institute through 3 cycles of strategic planning. In each of these cycles, what we do is that we look ahead about 5 years. We look ahead 5 years, and we ask ourselves, what is industry like about 5 years from today? What kind of jobs are there out there for each of these jobs in industry? What are the skill sets that they might need in the workforce? And working backwards from there, what then are some of the learning opportunities that we can help to facilitate and support from the institute. So I've done this over 3 cycles for this institute, and we have been serving a large part of the workforce in Singapore because we have a fairly large special workforce as well as professionals from the East Asian region. So what I'm going to share with you is some of this how we've been building up the kind of understanding of the future as we went through some of these planning cycles. How did we gradually build up this understanding of the future trends and used this understanding in our strategic planning book for the industry? Okay, so that's what I intend to share with you. There are various tools that you might use for when you look into the future. One particular tool is what you might call a scenario planning tool. So this is a fairly classical approach to scenario planning. When we say scenario planning, we are talking about future scenarios. In our case, future scenarios of the industry there. How might industry look in the future? And use that to work backwards to the current. So we are here today, but we need to look into the year X. Year X could be 5 years away, 10 years away. It depends on your planning horizon. So you have this planning horizon, and then we need to look at what is plausible. What is plausible in the future in terms of what we call the driving forces of change. Driving forces meaning these are phenomena that will influence future developments. So, and there can be many kinds of driving forces. There are the political or the policy-related driving forces. There are the economic types of driving forces. Like the way the economy or parts of the economy may go up or down or be structured. There are the social kinds of driving forces, ways that the communities and cultures might evolve in future. And of course, technological driving forces, which in many cases tend to be seemingly fairly deterministic. Definitely computers will be the processing speeds will get faster and faster. Computer machinery will get smaller and smaller. Yeah, there are some of these which are seemingly certainties, but still there are many uncertainties. And we look at driving forces and we try to evaluate each of these driving forces in terms of the impact on how the future might unfold. If it's a high impact driving force, then the way that this driving force happens in the road ahead will have huge impact on the industry. Industry might be severely or heavily impacted by that driving force. So we would like to focus on the high impact driving forces. Some of these driving forces have higher degrees of certainty, like technological driving forces, but some other driving forces, such as the economic ones, might tend to have many more uncertainties about how it might unfold. So what is usually interesting to us are the driving forces which have high degrees of uncertainty, because with more degrees of uncertainty, more and many different scenarios may unfold in the future. Because if these driving forces into the future are so certain, then there's only one scenario that might happen in the future. This is so certain. But because there's so many uncertainties, if you look at each of these uncertainties as a variable, if you create a model of the future, and each of these uncertainties is like a variable of how you might describe the future, then the more uncertainties that you have, the more scenarios may unfold for the future. So and that makes it interesting. And in our case, we will also look at all of these driving forces from both the global, from the global sense, as well as regional. Regional in this case would be more, in our case, is Southeast Asian region, and then local, as in the Singapore aspects. Some driving forces tend to be very global in nature, like technology. It's very global in nature. How technology affects industry anywhere in the world has a lot of similarities. But there are driving forces like the social ones, which tend to be fairly local, not even regional. So, but we use these three lenses. These are three lenses to look at the driving forces. And then we paint the scenarios of how industry might unfold in the future. So we have used tools like this, scenario planning tools like this to help us as we look in the future. We also look at, so just for the technology point of perspective, if you look at technology, so I'm kind of moving along in the strategic planning process over the 3 cycles that I've done. So as we move along, we look at technological driving forces. And the thing about technology is that it's not just about the technology per se, but it's about how technology is used, which is actually more interesting. So that's the process part, how technology is used. So we look at this mosaic. Mosaic is formed by the first letters of each of these bubbles here. So we look at the mosaic from not just the technology per se, but also how technology is used by the processes. And when you look at the combination of all of these effects on industry, it can be pretty interesting. If you look at each of these in isolation, it seems straightforward. But when you put it all together, and how industry or any organization, any company, any business in the industry, how technology helps them or impacts them in the way they use it, then it gets very interesting. And as we move along, then the world will move into what we might call Industry 4.0 or the fourth industrial revolution. Now, right now, are we in the fourth industrial revolution? As in, are we at 4.0 or are we at 3.9, 4.1? I don't know. We're somewhere there, right? Somewhere there. It could also be said that some parts of industry or some societies are a little beyond 4.0, some are a little behind. That's also possible. But as we went along in the planning process, and we look at how the world changes from from the third industrial revolution to the fourth, and now to the fifth, we ask ourselves some provocative questions, right? So as many of you would know, as the fourth industrial revolution unfolded many years back, there was a lot of digital disruption. There's a rise of all kinds of tech companies, startup companies that were seemingly disrupting the traditional industries. There are startups in the financial space, in the transportation space, in the health space, even in the education space, they were disrupting the traditional businesses. In many cases, totally upending the industries, those industries. So, some of the provocative questions when you have digital disruption that we consider when we do strategic planning is, for instance, what are the policy and regulatory challenges? So, okay, we say that there's autonomous vehicles that are running in many cities, around the world today, but there are still unsettled policy and regulatory challenges, even today. Right? So it's important to bring up some of these provocative questions as we plan ahead. Of course, you make choices. In strategy, you have to make choices. If a regulation is not in place, but you want to innovate, then how far do you go, right? Because then you have to bear some of the risk involved. For example, if you were to implement the use of autonomous vehicles in the city, then you have to be able to manage the risk involved. Because the regulatory coverage is still not complete. So questions like that. The data tsunami, which already has happened. There's many data tsunamis over the past decade. But can the systems cope? So that would be one question that we ask. Can the systems cope? Or will the systems crumble with the amount of data that they have to process? And today there are many systems which are still not coping well with the amount of data that they have to manage. So that is still an important question. Humanity. This seems philosophical, but actually it's not quite philosophical because we are seeing that more and more in terms of how human users of technology and technology itself come together in augmented in many interesting ways, and increasingly in ways that you can no longer distinguish. So there are many of us today who, as we interact with something like a ChatGPT kind of a tool, we are kind of losing that clear distinction between whether we are truly interacting with just a machine or a human being, or human being that's augmented by a machine, or a machine that's augmented by a human being, or something in between. We are losing a bit of that distinction. So questions like that were important for us. Even if you look up there, just under smart everything, as we have more and more smart systems, and again I mentioned generative AI, questions like, will machines emulate human cognition and emotion? Today, a lot of our smart innovation around generative AI is doing a fairly good job in emulating human communication. We seem to be able to converse quite naturally with the Gen AI tools. You see that. But what about the cognition? The reasoning part of it. OpenAI has just released Strawberry yesterday or the day before, which seems to have built in some human reasoning capabilities. So it's going beyond what ChatGPT does in terms of the human communication kind of abilities, but it's going to the reasoning capabilities, which is very interesting, and we'll see how it goes as the new tools are used. So questions like this help us to then open up a broader canvas in thinking about the strategic options for any one of us, whether you are a company, a business in the industry, or for us as an institute, in terms of what then should we do in terms of our programs, our learning pathways, and so on and so forth. Just 2 years ago, one of the fun things that we did was we got students, and these are students from what we call institutions of higher learning, what you might call post high school. Post high school, it could be a university, undergraduate, it could be a polytechnic, college, or some other kind of a college a student. We got them into a designathon. Designathon is like a hackathon, but you are designing the future. You're not creating any product here, but you're designing the future. So a designathon, and there were three themes that were used in this designathon. One is about green and sustainability. Another theme was about health and well-being, and then a third theme on work and learning. And the focal question for the designathon for the participants was envision Singapore in the year 2060. So it was 40 years ahead, 40. In the year 2060, under each of these three themes, whether green and sustainability, health and well-being, or work and learning, how might this country be like? So it was that open-ended. So we had about 59 teams from the various institutions of higher learning in the country come forward to participate. And eventually, these were the first prize winners for each of the three themes. This one is on green and sustainability. So Singapore as a country is very small. It's probably just a little bit bigger than Memphis as a country, I think. We have about 6 million people in that island, and we have almost no natural resources. We just have a lot of people in the country. It's very low lying. As a country, Singapore runs a huge risk of going underwater. As the sea levels rise due to climate change and so on and so forth. So this idea is to build new pieces of land 500 meters above the current ground. So the current ground is low-lying, very close to sea levels, but it's not very clear in this picture. But above the current ground, build new pieces of land, which are at least 500 meters above the current grounds. And these pieces of land high up in the sky are interconnected. So they are safe from climate change. They're much safer from climate change. There are many other things about how keeping it green and so on and so forth. And therefore, with this idea, the country can support 20 million people and not just 6 million people. So this was one idea. And then for health and well-being, how homes in the future can be designed to support health and safety in every home. So when you purchase a new home, it automatically comes with all of these features, smart features, to keep everyone at home safe and healthy, and monitoring your health every second of the day, and as well as safety every second of the day. And then there's this third example, this third first prize winner, focusing on the work and learning perspective of the future. And it's very much about how, if you know the metaverse concept, how work and learning in the future is going to be a blend of what's physical and what's virtual, and increasingly very virtual. Virtual to the extent of not just being online, but to have virtual representations of yourselves. Your digital twins, maybe digital triplets, quadruplets, up to you, who can do a lot of work for you, with you, etc. So that was the concept. And we use ideas like this because our students are all young, young and very bright minds. And you never know. You never know. Sometimes when we think about the future, if we try to plan for the future, sometimes if we are too convergent on certain ideas, it's like if all of us here in this room think the same way, this actually happens a lot in businesses. The corporate management team, they come into a room like this and everybody thinks the same way. They start from how the chairman or the CEO thinks, and everybody follows. Then it's groupthink, right? So it's too much of a convergence. So we get ideas like this, collecting ideas like this from very young, talented people for the future. Some of which, in fact, I think a lot of these ideas will actually unfold. How soon they unfold, how much of it do they unfold into the future? Of course, we will wait and see. But they're all useful ideas, also consider. Yeah, so these are the kind of things that we do to get all the data points as well as the creative inputs for strategic planning. So in the most recent exercise, we look at how as we move towards the year 2030, which is not that far away. We're talking about 6 years plus. So as we move to the year 2030, how would industry evolve with all the digitalization that's happening? And this will be this where the rest of my presentation will focus on. So when we look at how industry has been evolving, or how some of these trends unfold, if you look at these trends from day to day, or even month to month, quarter to quarter, you might not see much. But if you look at these trends over 10 years, so in this case from year 2020 to year 2030, there are big changes. Big changes. In some cases, we may even be caught off guard that some of these changes have happened and we suddenly realize it. It's like generative AI, right? It seems like it's all happening in the past 2 years. But many of you would know that the research behind generative AI has been around for more than 10 years. It's not new. But sometimes we realize these changes at moments which are much later than when it has actually began to unfold. So when you look at how digitalization trends for industry, there are 5 perspectives here. And what this chart shows is a bit of a cause and effect. So if you look at the arrows, the start of the arrow is the cause and the end of the arrow is the effect. So when people learn, they know how to use technology and tools. Technology and tools are used by people, and they're used in processes. Processes deliver value. So if you're running a business, then all of this eventually should produce business value to the company, to the customers, and so on and so forth. So that's the cause and effect. So what I'm going to do is to step you through some of these trends along each of these 5 perspectives. Are you okay so far? Anyone would like to ask a question? It's okay? Yeah. So firstly, on the value perspective, right? So whether or not you are a business, you are a government agency, at the end of the day, you exist because you need to create value. Right? That's why any organization will exist. But this notion of value has been changing. So not too long ago, for any organization, your value has been defined in fairly economic terms. Like you put in so much money to run a business, how much profit do you get? How much return on investment do you get? It's been defined very much from an economic standpoint. But increasingly, the notion of value for any organization and industry is shifting to the right, whereby that whatever value you're talking about has to be sustainable. It has to be some notion of value that truly considers sustainability, not just for yourself or for your business, but across your supply chain, across your community, across your country. You have to consider sustainability as part of your value measurement. So that's a shift that's really happening, and therefore you're going to find that increasingly there'll be this balancing act, balancing considerations of people, planet, and profit. How should organizations in industry balance it, right? And how can digital help in this balance? So these are interesting questions. The ability of our planet to replenish resources is declining. So you might know of this notion called the Earth Overshoot Day. That's the day when all the resources produced by nature for the entire year is consumed. So I'm told that right now the Earth Overshoot Day is the end of July, which means 12 months of resources that nature can produce is fully consumed by the first 7 months. So we are not sustainable. Our planet is not sustainable. We are declining in that aspect. So how can we slow this? How can we slow this decline? That would be an interesting question. Not just for digital, but can digital help in various ways? So both governments and businesses are looking at measures to mitigate some of these issues by prioritizing green sustainable initiatives, by incentivizing businesses as well as citizens to do their part to have sustainable economy, sustainable society. And for those of us who are Gen Z, the younger ones, we do see the change in attitudes. I'm sure even amongst many of you, you're actually a lot more concerned about sustainability than, say, the Gen X crowd, the baby boomers, etc. Those guys, myself included, probably, still a lot more economic in my thinking about value, right? But with the Gen Z attitudes, that's changing. So the major finding here for this trend in terms of green and sustainability is that when we look at digitalization for industry, any digital transformation initiative and any sustainability initiative, they must go hand in hand. They must go hand in hand. There's no point in any organization to pursue these two initiatives separately. Because if you do that, it might be counterproductive. So we are working with organizations to see how their digital and sustainability initiatives can go hand in hand, treat it as one project to transform the organization rather than two disconnected projects. Okay, so that's the green and sustainability perspective. In terms of value, so in Singapore, this is one example from the water point of view. You probably don't have this challenge here. I mean, the Mississippi Valley has so much water that you can draw on. In Singapore, we have none. We depend on the rain for a large part of our water supply. That's one of the taps that we have. We depend on drawing water from the sea and removing the salt. That's a very small supply. We do depend on reusing, or what you call reclaiming, the used water. And then we purchase water from the neighboring country as well. So we have various taps. Each of these taps are very precious because water is a very precious resource for a country. So a lot of digitalization has gone in to, for example, to understand the rainfall patterns, so that we are a lot more accurate. Even, for example, to predict rainfall, like what has happened today, right? The rain, um, down to 10 minutes, 10 minutes ahead, for example, rather than just being able to see 2 hours ahead, or which are very broad kinds of forecasting. But when you go down to the 10-minute intervals, it is very precise, so that we can catch the rainwater effectively. And even in the drainage across the country, having all the Internet of Things, all the IoT devices to track the flows of water. We have smart balls which are smart. They just roll along the water pipes to see, is water flowing properly? Are there any issues with the pipes, the drainage that's underground, etc. So a lot of technology is used to plan, to monitor, to prioritize. Is it time to release the floodgates if there's a lot of rain, or we need to do something else, etc. Okay, processes. So there's an increasingly a shift in processes as well, from what I call when and where to now and then. One thing that you are well aware of is hyper personalization. So say for whatever you purchase, whether physically or online, the extent of hyper personalization in the way you are served as a customer, that has been increasing, and this will continue to increase. And with digital tools, there are locations where you can perform your processes, or steps of the processes are a lot more flexible. You can easily, in an overnight way, move your operations somewhere else and run, because technology has made you nimble in the way you run your processes. Processes are increasingly compressed, and this is an interesting development. So I don't know if you watch, there was this movie 2 years ago. It's called Everything Everywhere All at Once. It was Oscar, got Oscar for the best picture. Whereby everything, everything of the future and the past and the present, they're all happening all at once at the same place. So increasingly processes are like that. For example, if you are working in the IT industry, in the IT industry we talk about DevSecOps. That means development of systems and the operations of the systems which are deployed, as well as all the cybersecurity considerations of those systems, are managed together as one process. And I've just added design so design, DevSecOps increasingly is compressed into one process rather than 4 different processes. In retailing, this is happening very quickly. If you look at what we call ultra fast fashion retailing, processes are heavily compressed. This is one example. I don't know if any one of you have purchased any clothing from this online retailer called Shein. Shein is headquartered in Singapore. Today, Shein is the largest apparel retailer, although it exists purely online, because it sells for $45 billion apparel a year. So it's way bigger than Zara, way bigger than H&M, and so on and so forth, way bigger. And this model is an example of ultra fast fashion retailing. Why? Why do I say that? Every day, about 1,000 new designs are added to the storefront. 1,000 every day. Not 1,000 per season or every few months, but every day. So there is a lot of monitoring of the social media, as well as inputs from the influencers on social media, in terms of what people are looking at, in terms of designs that they fancy, So a lot of analytics is applied to kind of identify some of these designs that consumers are interested in. Maybe they've seen some of these designs on some catwalk in Paris yesterday, and then they're talking about it on social media. So Shein will have all of these tools out there that is constantly watching all of these trends on social media by minute, and you pick up some of these trends, and then there are also they also have hundreds of designers who will then create the specifications for the factories to produce those designs. And there are more than 5,000 factories. Many of them are in China, but there are also many factories in the Americas who will then take these designs and they'll start by producing a very small quantity, say about 100 pieces, just to test the market. If it sells, then either that factory or more factories will be commissioned to produce more. So within a day or two or a few days, new designs are discovered, sent to the factories, and within 1 to 2 weeks, this new apparel is available for sale on the shop front. 1 to 2 weeks. It's not like slow fashion, whereby you walk into a shop and say, "I'd like to have something like this. Do you have it?" And the shop might tell you, "Yeah, after the fall or after the winter season, we'll probably have it. Come back again." But this turnaround is within 1 to 2 weeks. You turn around, it's available for sale. Right? Not just on request. You can buy it. You want it from the factory, it will be shipped out to you in a matter of days if you want it. And if more people want it, more will be produced. If less people want it, they might just cut it down. So it's ultra fast, and a lot of analytics is used. The whole process is compressed from the time when a consumer may have a potential need to the time when this consumer is satisfied with the product or with the purchase. This total turnaround time is extremely rapid. We're talking about 2 weeks. Turnaround, ultra fast. So the process is heavily compressed. Okay, a third perspective is about people. And again, this is where, as we go through generational change, there are different attitudes amongst people. So we have noticed that for the Gen Z crowd, the attitudes towards how they consume services and even how they use digital will be very different from, say, the baby boomers, who have different attitudes and different lifestyles, different ways of working and using technology. So increasingly, we find that even as technology seems to be it kind of levels the playing field for everybody, but we still have to be sensitive to the fact that there are different attitudes from the different kinds of people that we deal with. In the school of design thinking, we talk about jobs to be done. A job to be done in the school of design thinking refers to something like this. If a customer needs to get something done, that is a customer's job to be done. So if a customer needs to buy an air ticket, say, to fly from A to B, that is a job to be done. That is a customer's job to be done. So a lot of design thinking work is going into, okay, let's make it user-friendly, let's be empathetic to what the customer needs and so on and so forth. Right? But increasingly, we are looking beyond just those transactions, those jobs to be done, in terms of understanding how people use digital. Increasingly, we're looking into how they live their lives. So as you live your life, you have more than 1 million jobs to be done. Now the job that you have right now is listening to me in this session. Right? After this, I don't know, you might be going for a movie, you might be having a great dinner. That's your next job to be done, etc. Right? So when you live a life, you have millions of jobs to be done, and very often they're connected, right? And that's where digital has a lot of power to connect So you are buying an air ticket to fly from A to B, not just because you want to buy the air ticket, but because you want to go to location B to get some business done, to sign a contract, to see through the graduation of your children, etc. And then you want to get back to your work. So you have a life to be lived. So increasingly we are looking at how digital can connect all of these jobs to be done, so that for anyone that digital is serving, say any customer of a business, you can not only just handle that transaction when you are serving the customer, but you are totally aware and totally supportive of what or how this customer needs to live his or her life before and after this transaction with you. This bank, uh, this bank called DBS, which is the largest bank in Southeast Asia, went through a major transformation themselves. Firstly, they transformed themselves from what is normally called a bank into a technology company. So this bank today is built on technology platforms. So they might have a technology platform, say, for credit cards, another technology platform for loans, and so on and so forth. And each of these technology platforms, there are about 26 of them that make up this bank for DBS. Each of these technology platforms understands or tries to understand the lives to be lived. So if you are, for example, an Uber driver, you transact with the bank not because you're happy going to the bank to put in some money or take out some money, but you want to drive. And at the end of the day, you want that income from all the driving. So the bank has to be visible, because it's not about banking that this person is a customer. It's about his driving as an Uber driver. It's about his driving. That's what matters. That's the life that's living. So the bank looks at ways to make itself visible. So all the transactions are it's push and pull, but it's as much as possible transparent, fully automated. You don't have to go to the bank at any point in time. You never ever have to go to the bank, and yet you can continue earning your income or whatever. You might take a loan sometimes. You might want to get some credit card processing done. Automate all of that, and automate all of that with a very good understanding of the lives to be lived for each of these customers. So that's one example of this trend happening. Okay, the fourth dimension, which is I think most familiar to all of us here, is about technology and tools. Well, and I've talked about platforms and all that, which almost every business is going to. So that's almost every business is seeing itself more and more as a product or platform company. But the more interesting aspect of this trend that we are paying attention to is how humans and machines work together. So if you look at even up to the fourth industrial revolution, when machines got smarter and smarter, it has still very much been about how humans are working the machines. And therefore, we need to train people to use machines effectively, properly, and so on and so forth. But as we move into the fifth industrial revolution, it's more about machines working for people. And how can machines work effectively for people? This seems rather subtle, but it's fiction. It's fiction because for machines to work effectively for people, the smart machines, all of these smart machines must be humanized. They must be able to operate as if they are another human being to be totally effective. So the generative AI tools are going in that direction. Not there yet, but that's the direction that they're heading. As an example of humanization. So there's so many use cases of Gen AI that you see today, right? Although I must say that up to now, a lot of the use cases for Gen AI are still to do with productivity, using the tool to help you to summarize a lot of information, to do some research on something that can save you a lot of time on, to give you some suggestions on how you might want to write a speech, and so on and so forth. Productivity related use cases. And we need to move beyond that to using such tools to enable us as human beings to do new things and not just be productive in doing what we're doing today. And that will require us to be, as human beings, we have to be part of this innovation loop. So we shouldn't be just delegating all of this to the smart tools and thinking that Gen AI can do everything. It's not meant to do everything. Anyhow, no matter how we progress. So even for OpenAI's Strawberry, which was just launched, it has more reasoning capabilities, but still it does not do everything. So we have to be part of this loop, innovation loop, and continue to humanize the smart technology more and more for it to be effective in helping us. Right. The final perspective is about learning, and this is, of course, most pertinent to my institute because we are a learning institution. So, if nothing else, this trend matters the most to us. So, how does industry learn? there's this, you might say, a phenomenon of a 70-20-10. What do I mean by 70-20-10? If you look at any workplace out there, even if you work in the university as a workplace, you notice that in terms of your opportunities to learn, 70% of the time, those opportunities are actually found in your workplace as you're doing your work. Now, whether or not you leverage those opportunities is a separate question, but in terms of opportunities, in terms of the time and space that you have to learn from, the workplace gives you 70% of that. All the attention that you have in the 24 hours of the day. 20% of the time, you have the opportunity to learn from someone else, including very social settings like this. So like today, in this session like this is one instance of social learning. We're just gathered here, we're learning from one another. We're not at work, neither are we in a formal classroom, but socially, we're sharing, we're discussing, so that's 20%. 10% of the time, you have the opportunity to learn from the classroom, to go back to school to learn. So, as an industry professional, we find that there's this 70-20-10 kind of split in terms of opportunities. But for many learning institutions, we are focused on the 10%. We run schools, we run classrooms, we run training programs on that 10%. So there's a lot of that 70% and 20% is untapped, both by the learning institution as well as the industry professionals for learning is untapped. So for that 70% of the time, many of us who are working out there, we are so busy at work, we forget to learn. We're just busy working. Maybe we are solving problems here and there. But after we solve the problem, we move on. We don't learn from it so effectively. So a lot of this 70% is untapped. A lot of the 20% is also untapped. We seemingly see a lot of information online, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. Some are useful learning, some are a bit trashy, but there's a lot online. But it's not just that, it's also how we network with one another, how we find those opportunities to learn and collaborate with one another. Again, this 20% is very much untapped, and this 20% is not very well supported by learning institutions today. Learning institutions today are very geared up only for the 10%. So even for my institute, we are looking closely at ways to broaden our approach to helping industry learn by having more of our institutions' investments on the 20% and the 70%. But how can we, as a school, how can we be effective in that 20% and 70%? Because we run a school, we're not out there at a bar, we're not in the workplace. Well, that's where digital helps. So digital platforms can connect learning for industry professionals. For your work, you can learn. The digital tools can help you to reinforce some of the learning from the work that you do. The same platform can help you to connect socially for learning purposes and channel that back into what you might want to apply to your place. The same platform can support learning in school and also channel all that learning back to what you might apply in the workplace. So we're looking into this, all of these ways to connect not just the class-based learning, which all schools are good at, but also to get into all the other aspects of social learning, immersive learning, adaptive, collaborative, and always in time learning. I say always in time and not just in time because just in time learning is not always effective. Sometimes it's firefighting. So we say, when we talk about learning in the workplace, we say always in time, so that by the time you need to utilize that learning, you're ready. But it does not mean that you should only learn a few seconds before you need that. Sometimes it's not effective. Sometimes you have to learn, reflect, adapt, then you apply. So we say always in time. So we have to look into all of these modalities of supporting learning as a learning institution, and certainly for the businesses in industry, they are themselves investing in all these modalities. Increasingly, any sizable business is having its own sense of an academy, or even a sense of its own corporate university that will support all of these modalities. So we think this is important for both us as well as for the industry. Okay, so I've actually come to the end of my sharing. I know it might be quite a bit to digest. You might have questions for me. Again, that's my name card if you like to keep in touch. Yes, please.
Hi, how are you? I thoroughly enjoyed this. One of the things going back to the retailer, Shane,
Sure.
I actually ordered some walking shoes. Very inexpensive,
Yes.
very comfortable, I must say. I was really surprised. But the question is, how can, looking at that 2-week time frame when they're demoing a prototype and then rolling it out,
Yeah.
how can they, you talked about sustainability, right? So with their model and that time frame, what are they doing differently from other retailers? Only thing that I noticed when I got my package is the packaging.
Yes.
That was totally different than if you ordered from another online retailer.
Yeah.
So if you could elaborate on that a little bit more, looking at their model and how they came up with that and how they grew so fast, because they are really, really growing. And a lot of that, from what I've read, is coming from the US.
Yeah.
As
Yes.
well as purchasers.
Yes. So the founder of Shein was more of a software engineer. He's what we call the search engine optimization engineer. If you know what that is. He knew nothing about fashion retailing, but he founded Shein, and subsequently they grew and they moved the headquarters to Singapore. Now, how did they do it? Well, firstly, you have to recognize that Shein is a two-sided marketplace. One side of the marketplace are consumers like yourselves, millions of them, and on the other side are the designers, the factories, and the social media influencers on the other side. And all the data that flows from the consumer in terms of what you might be interested in or what you want to buy must flow very rapidly to the other side, right? So for many of these factories, say for example the factories in China, they're all very small factories, but there are thousands of them. But okay, if you were to go in each of these small little factories, how do you help them to turn around quickly? Firstly, each of these factories are not going to have their smart computer systems. So what she did was that they gave them their computer system. They installed it in each of these factories to say that, when I will design for you, you can see it in your factory. It goes all the way into the system that they access in the factory. You say, okay, this is the design, this is the specification. Can you do 100 pieces? Yes, do it. And once you've done it, within 30 days, you're paid. So they try to minimize the payment period for these small factories because they're not rich factories. They depend on the cash flow. So by helping the factories to be quick, they turn around quickly. Now, is it sustainable? What if they overproduce? Now, if you compare with, say, Zara or H&M, they produce a lot more. Why? Because, say, if you're Zara, you're producing all kinds of designs for a particular season. Say summer. This is summer. This is summer collection. And Zara will produce, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of pieces for sale in various countries. A lot of that is unsold. And then they have to find a secondary market for these unused pieces. But what she does is that it's not in very, very small quantities, just 100 pieces. Not 100,000, but just 100 pieces. No matter where the consumer is, you might be sitting here in Memphis, and this little factory could be in some little village in China, and that little factory will produce that 100 pieces just for you. And if more consumers like it, they'll produce more. So in that sense, by limiting production, they can reduce wastage. But in order to reduce this wastage, it's all about data. How they can effectively use data accurately to predict the volumes that they should produce and to know when to scale up or scale down in a very real time way. Yeah, so they do things like that. Other questions from anyone? You can ask me anything about those areas that I've gone through. Maybe I'll just bring up this chart. Yeah. Yes, Mark.
On that 70-10-20 model, seems to me there could be a lot of overlap. So for example, if it's a classroom situation and you have the students breaking up into groups for group projects, well, then they're learning from each other as well as traditional classroom learning. How does that affect your model at all?
Yeah, so question for Mark is, are there a lot of overlaps across each of these modalities for 70-20-10? So for example, in a classroom setting, there could also be some social learning. That's true. In fact, for the programs that we run in NUSISS, we tell our participants to bring your workplace challenges into the classroom, right? So that whatever learning that you do, even in a classroom, is as practical as possible, rather than coming to the classroom just for some theoretical or conceptual learning. So yes, there can be, and in fact there should be overlaps in terms of what is learned, as well as how the learning experience is across the three modalities. What is important is to connect all of them, the 70, 20, and 10. Because end of the day, like for what we do in my institute, it is about the impact to the industry. When they learn from us, what impact do we create? How have we helped that business or that company to do better, to innovate, to grow, to transform? That's the impact that we're after. So forming these connections across the 70, 20, 10, I think will yield a lot of benefit. There are a lot of multiplier effect in there. I can learn something, I can spread it to my colleagues. That's really one multiplier, and so on and so forth. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Great presentation. Thank you so much. Will any of this presentation be available for us to view online or stream on?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah. We'll be sending out an email with our, with a link to where it will be posted.
Awesome.
So we available for you online.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, there's time for one more question.
How do you deal with the evolving landscape of the new tools that are coming in? AI is changing things so fast. I feel like really for me as a worker, do mergers and acquisitions, but I have to stay on, I have to do spend a lot of time trying to research tools that are going to be effective in these companies that are purchasing to streamline and really compress that process, the job processes that the companies will find to give us competitive advantages. How does your institution make sure that you're staying on top of the most current tools when they change so fast?
So to stay on top of some of these changes, evolution in say AI tools, we have to get involved. So we get involved in a lot of industry projects to actually see how the tools are being utilized. We might send in our graduate students, we ourselves as instructors, we might actually participate in those projects, and we try to follow them through because some of these employees of the companies might come for a training program for a few days or a few weeks, but what's more interesting is what do they do after that? How do they apply it? And even as they apply it, those processes, all that can continue to evolve. The business situation can continue to evolve, and therefore they might need additional learning. They might need to tweak the ways, the different ways that they manage their technology or to re-engineer the processes. So increasingly we follow them through. We have to find ways to kind of keep in touch with them, and also advise them on when they should come back for additional learning, or maybe we can advise them on some fine tuning in the way they run the projects. Yeah, so that will be important. Oh yes,
Yeah.
okay.
In the talk of them, what is the main challenge that your institution faced when coming up with the teaching technology strategy?
Challenges at the local level.
Yes, like the main challenge.
Right. A lot of the challenges end of the day will center around people. People, including the industry professionals, are they ready for some of these changes? Are they aware of all the pros and cons? For example, AI, right? There's so much innovative things that you can dream of, like I show you the chart for all the Gen AI use cases. But there's a flip side to it. There's all the risk involved. There's all the data governance issues. There's all the trust issues. Like, to what extent do you want to trust the technology? And all of this are close to the hearts of people. So if people that we work with, that we train, and even ourselves as trainers, if we are not aware of some of these issues, and we just kind of blindly follow, or maybe we are so afraid that technology will take over our jobs and all that, and therefore we resist, we withdraw from all of this, then it's also end of the day, it's all the local challenges and faces for people. There's always not enough talent. The talented people are all overworked and stressed out. The company has many companies no time to send employees for training or upskilling, etc. Right? But end of the day, they still need to get things done. So we have to work closely with one another between ourselves as an institute and the industry to find practical ways for them to learn as they innovate. Rather than just because of running a business, there's no time to learn, there's no time to innovate, and everybody's so stressed out and so forth. So it's all about people. Yeah. helping people, supporting people, motivating people, and at a local level.
All right, thank you so much. That was a great talk.
Thank you.
And this is for everyone online as well. We had a very robust audience today. Thank you all for coming out and attending today's talk. It will be posted on our FIT webpage. We'll be sending out a link with the recording for today's talk. Marianne, do you want to do this real quick? Yeah. So on behalf of the FedEx Institute of Technology and the University of Methodist, we just have some.
Thank you for being our guest.
Thanks.
Truly,
Thank you.
appreciate you so much.
And with that, thank you guys for attending so much. We'll look forward to meeting you for our next event. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you for listening.
James Miller, nice to meet you.